Hi, my name is Bethany, and today I want to talk to you about MMS, or Miracle Mineral Solution, also known as CD or Chlorine Dioxide, and why some people are convinced to use it on their autistic children to heal them. On this channel, I'm a fan of research, facts, data, etc., because I know that there's a lot of claims out there that are baseless and can be harmful, and I'd really like to know the truth about a matter before taking action. The hallmark of something being absolute BS tends to be when there is no scientific backing, no actual verifiable data or studies, and you have to rely solely on anecdotal evidence. That means someone's story or someone's testimony of something happening. So on that note, welcome to the world of MMS or CD.
The beginning of this is attributed to a man named Jim Humble, who, from my understanding, is the one who coined the term Miracle Mineral Solution, or MMS. Apparently, this guy was on a gold mining expedition in South America and found out about the disinfectant capabilities of chlorine dioxide. On his webpage, he claims that MMS can save your life, has restored partial or full health to people with a wide range of diseases, and considers it safe to say that MMS has the potential to overcome most diseases, yet follows that by saying MMS does not cure disease. Funny how one can quite literally use every other word to imply that it cures it, such as restoring health or overcoming diseases, but in order to not get in trouble with the government, one must note that technically cure hasn't been used here. Yet, in his About section, MMS is described as a simple health formula that cured malaria. Pretty sure that's against FDA guidelines, but okay. This guy has no background in medicine, his only notable accolade in that regard being a nutritional and alternative health enthusiast. While this isn't immediately a bad thing, one has to be very, very careful not to step into pseudoscience and quackery in the alternative health world.
No worries, Jim jumped right in with the simple assumption of if it can disinfect something outside of the body, it will work to do the same inside of the body. Jim had found his next moneymaker since the whole gold thing wasn't working out so well. Apparently he has a group called the Genesis 2 Church, which I would highly hesitate to actually call a church, in which he shields this idea further. There's actually quite a bit of information and research out there on this man and the Genesis 2 Church and what he has gotten himself and that group into, but he's actually not what I want to focus on today. After all, autism was just casually thrown into the list of claims here.
It was actually an individual named Carrie Rivera who was well noted for bringing MMS, which she now seems to prefer it to be called CD for chlorine dioxide, and to perhaps separate it from the negative press around MMS, to the autism arena. Apparently, she was one of the many desperate parents of an autistic child, searching for any solution to rid him of autism. She tried the DAN method on her son for years, which stands for Defeat Autism Now, a protocol that was discontinued by the Autism Research Institute. It was based on the fallacious idea that autism was caused by vaccines and lies in the realm of needing to somehow detox the autistic child from heavy metals. Apparently, some people still try this method as they are desperate for anything to help their child. Her son was considered a non-responder to the DAN protocol. Surprise, surprise, a scientifically baseless method didn't work. And she kept searching. She eventually found MMS, trying it on herself and her son, and felt that it worked. She went on to share this method with the autism community. No doubt she had plenty of connections with the very population that would try this on their child, considering she was clearly the target audience for a so-called miracle cure in the first place. Rivera went on to write a book titled Healing the Symptoms Known as Autism, which is translated into other languages and is riddled with anecdotal testimonies to help convince readers that this method would definitely be a great idea for them to try. The book was banned from Amazon in 2019.
The anecdotal testimonies can be found plastered on her site, which can become very alarming when you realize what some of these parents are actually doing.
Before getting to some of the alarming things, here's an annoying note. A parent elated that their child is playing appropriately with a car by pushing it and saying vroom vroom, because that's what they've been trained to do. Yikes. Other reports seem more attributable to general skills being built or improvement on the part of the child rather than some miracle cure. Others show how far into quackery these parents are, sharing about other treatments they subject their children to. Lots of these mention parasites and parasite protocols. Many think their children had parasites coming out of them after being treated with CD, reporting seeing ropeworms come out. Sodium chloride, which is an important part of CD, can cause shedding of internal mucous membranes, such as parts of the small and large intestine. It is believed that the ropeworms are actually pieces of the child's intestines. Horrifying. And this actually encourages parents rather than discourages them from continuing this so-called treatment. Another alarming thing is one casually mentioning how her kids are in the MMS steam bath since the children are coughing. This is worse than simply swallowing CD, as the fumes from this stuff is dangerous, and absorption in the blood happens very quickly with gases that are inhaled thanks to the respiratory system. Additionally, CD is known to be an irritant for the nose, throat, and lungs, causing respiratory issues. Why anyone would think it would be appropriate to give children who are already coughing an MMS steam bath, effectively having them inhale a gas that is a known irritant to the respiratory system, is beyond me. In addition, chlorine dioxide is explosive, and sufficient ventilation with a gas mask is considered required. Acute exposure of the skin to chlorine that originates from the decomposition of chlorine dioxide causes irritations and burns. Eye exposure to chlorine dioxide causes irritation, watering eyes, and a blurry sight. Chlorine dioxide gas can be absorbed by the skin, where it damages tissue and blood cells. Inhalation of chlorine dioxide gas causes coughing, sore throat, severe headaches, lung edema, and bronchospasms. The symptoms can begin to show long after exposure has taken place and can remain for a long time. Chronic exposure to chlorine dioxide causes bronchitis. Why would you put your child in that and have them take a steam bath?
Another thing you might notice in these is the constant mention of ATEC scores used to validate their claims. ATEC stands for the Autism Treatment Evaluation Checklist, and it's a method of self-assessment in which the parent assesses for themselves how their child's behaviors have been via the checklist. That means that this is a completely subjective score and quite frankly means nothing coming from desperate parents who want to lend support and some form of validity to an unscientific and unproven method.
I did a mock run of the ATEC for myself, and some of the questions, if one answers honestly, would score at least a 1 or 2 for anyone with a child, spectrum or otherwise, especially depending on their age. Yet some parents claim some seriously radical score changes that make me doubt their validity. Not like one can really find out though, since they're anonymous. On another note, I saw a lot of people call her godmother Carrie, which just gave me very cultish vibes and made me rather uncomfortable. In the Appendix 1 to her book, Rivera claims that 115 children have lost their autism diagnosis through the use of CD and the protocol she outlines. She states that the testimonials come from the past 3 years and from all over the world. If you think about this for a minute, you might realize that number, with the world and access in 7 different languages, 115 isn't actually a whole lot, even if that itself is accurate. Not only that, you may notice that just in the next paragraph that the testimonials were, quote, collected some time ago, which is not what I personally would use to describe 3 years ago, but okay. This is to highlight the fact most of these people use the term MMS. There are also plenty who reference the DAN protocol as well. Despite constant disclaimers to avoid being in trouble with the FDA, Rivera had clearly stated in her book and on her website by hosting this image in the testimonials section that chlorine dioxide is the substance responsible for the healing. Again, another way of saying that it was CD that cured or healed autism. Rivera doesn't appear to take criticism very well, as despite her constant focus on the positive remarks and stories regarding people's experiences with CD, she tends to be bothered by negative responses, especially from the press. She has an entire troll watch page dedicated to denouncing anyone who has successfully spoken up against her and CD or MMS. She claims they're trolls, bullies, etc., many of which are scheming together against her. This narrative helps concerned parents ignore the very real problems brought to light and feel as though Rivera is just another autism mom like them, being attacked by people who just don't get it. She makes quite an interesting claim about the horrible people who speak out against CD. What follows may be shocking and unbelievable. Unfortunately for the victims, and that includes anyone who is seeking treatment for the symptoms of autism, it's true. There is an organized ring in the United States and the UK that targets doctors, healthcare professionals, researchers, charities that advocate for children with autism, conference organizers, writers, and families with autistic children. They have been working together in a concerted fashion for several years now. Click here for profiles of some of these people and their activities. They operate under the theory that 1. Autism is not a serious disease. It is merely a style of neurodiversity. 2. The very idea of treating autism is a form of abuse. And 3. Even seeking a cure for autism is wrong.
She encourages people to reach out to her if they feel that they have been a victim of any of these people so that they can investigate. While there are some who do fall under the description that she's created, that is far from all, and I don't know that all the people that she has pointed out as being some nefarious group of people being mean to autism parents is actually accurately described by her description. On a linked page called the Hall of Shame, these people are listed along with their images and a description that may or may not be accurate and is definitely highly biased. And it also includes links to go follow them. But let's be honest, it's probably not really to just follow them out of good faith, but instead to either block them to continue in their echo chamber or to harass them.
Hilariously, she calls fellow autistic advocate Amanda Sagler a leader of some nefarious ring in the US to attack the poor, sweet autism families just looking to make their babies' lives better. Included also is Melissa Eaton. Want to know why they specifically are attacked by Rivera's victim narrative? It's because of their work infiltrating autism mom groups that use CD and other similar methods on their children, reporting parents who admitted doing seriously dangerous things to their autistic children. This got a lot of press through an NBC article, which doesn't look so great for the miracle cure narrative that people like Rivera like to push. Apparently, it was just so mean of Sagler and Eaton to report people like one Arkansas mom who said she gave her adult son chlorine dioxide and reported that he is constantly making a gasping sound, and a Canadian mom who struggles giving her 2-year-old CD, saying that he screams, spits, flips over. Don't forget the Massachusetts mother who complained that she couldn't get her 5-year-old to cooperate with CD enemas. Yeah, just internet trolls attacking these poor victims. Sure. I imagine she also wasn't a fan of them mentioning that in 2015 Rivera had to agree to not conduct seminars or sell products in the state of Illinois. But it's just these mean internet trolls stopping her from doing miraculous work, right? Personally, I can't wait to be added to the Hall of Shame should anyone be so inclined. After all, making a video must be attacking Rivera, the almighty Jim Humble, and the precious chlorine dioxide, right? A tactic I noticed Rivera and those associated with her like to use is the credentials argument. Anyone saying anything bad about her or CD or MMS immediately is attacked for not working with autistic children or not having a background in medicine, etc. Ironic, coming from a person who constantly signs off as a doctor of homeopathy, which isn't a real certification, and one she won't share more information on how she got it.
So from my perspective, I think Rivera and I are actually on the same level in regard to credentials. We have both worked with autistic individuals, maybe a bonus for me for being autistic. We both must rely on research to guide our understanding and our claims. I see anecdotal evidence of harm. She has anecdotal evidence of supposed healing. I guess she can get an extra point for being the author of a book in which she makes money off of her dangerous protocol that includes illegal claims. Now, one thing Rivera doesn't really have on her side here is scientific facts and data, and that, my friend, I do have. Now, really, here is where we are going to part from the woman who is most notable for bringing this method or protocol to the autism community. I mention her as a place to jump off from because she clearly has brought this specifically into a group of desperate parents who really want a cure and really want to help their children, and she has gained at the very least a following and possibly money from her book and selling consultation appointments and stuff like that. But she isn't the only person doing this. She's really just an example of this kind of ideology that has now spread to a lot of autism parent communities. Now, we're going to go on to address claims regarding chlorine dioxide that many people have made, so I don't really feel that it's fair to single her out in this situation.
Is chlorine dioxide harmful? Yes, it can be, especially depending on the amounts someone is exposed to. According to Dr. Daniel Brooks, it can lead to kidney damage and kidney failure. In general, doctors warn that it could do irreparable harm to a child's body by damaging digestive system tissues and causing harm to red blood cells. Fun fact, red blood cells are responsible for carrying oxygen throughout the body. The idea that people are having children inhale this and damage their respiratory tract on top of possibly damaging their ability to distribute oxygen to cells throughout their body is horrifying. In fact, children exposed to high levels of chlorine dioxide before birth and during early development may have parts of their brains develop more slowly. Pretty sure that would contribute to the problem that many autism parents want to get rid of. Chlorine dioxide is also known to cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and severe dehydration. Some people delude themselves by insisting that this is evidence that it's working. CD and its disinfection byproducts chlorite and chlorate can also create problems for dialysis patients. Not only is it dangerous, it can be deadly. According to the NBC article, the data showed serious side effects from chlorine dioxide poisoning in 2,123 cases since 2014. 50 of those cases were considered life-threatening, and 8 people died. There was one case in the FDA reporting system where a 6-year-old autistic girl was hospitalized with liver failure in 2017. Despite this information, MMS and CD supporters continuously point to water treatment and temporary exposure to CD gas for disinfection for foods as a way to say that it's safe for human consumption. This ignores the fact that the bleaching agent, which amounts to industrial bleach, not your average everyday bleach, which many MMS and CD proponents get very angry about, is used in tiny amounts within huge amounts of water. Using bleach to clean drinking water is now recommended to be reserved for emergencies only by the CDC, saying it's safer to use bottled or boiled water instead. Many make big number claims about who has been helped or cured by MMS or CD, such as on Humble's site, where a lot of different numbers are thrown out as people who have been using it or have been successfully treated, etc. In an attempt at validity, a study in 2018 was released in Germany where they tested CD on 500 malarial patients in Cameroon because apparently in developing countries it's okay to treat human beings like guinea pigs. Supposedly, it was, quote, a promising new approach in malaria treatment, end quote, but was retracted after review, and the author of the study was stripped of his title for his unethical actions. There are other, quite frankly, stupid claims under the facts portion on Humble's site, pulling many ideas straight out of his rear end. Another page I think one of the proponents discussed had linked to at one point, though I'm not sure, comes out with some serious foolishness stated as though it were fact, including the supposition that autism is made up of virus, bacteria, parasites, yeast, heavy metals, inflammation, and food allergies. I would love to see the scientific data to back that one up. However, the emphasis on the difference between CD and bleach is on its disinfectant properties lying in oxidation instead of chlorination. True, but is this really all that better? The idea is that the oxidation disinfects and gets rid of bad things in the body that supposedly are the cause of autism or are stopping the body from healing itself and therefore from autism or other conditions and illnesses. This oxidation happening in the body can cause free radicals in the body. Surely you've heard of all the great antioxidant foods, right? Why would you want oxidants in your body? Free radicals, according to the free radical theory of aging, break cells down over time, which causes a degenerative process. Quite the opposite to Humble's unfounded claims that MMS would lead to a longer life. Oxidative stress due to free radicals are connected by studies and theories to central nervous system diseases, cardiovascular disease, autoimmune and inflammatory disorders, including cancer, and more. I repeat, why would you want the oxidation process going on in your body, opening you up to not only a lot of pain from the corrosive nature of chlorine dioxide, but the free radicals being produced by oxidative stress? Wouldn't CD actually lead to even worse problems further down the road? At the end of the day, chlorine dioxide is not intended to be taken into the body, whether by drink, breathing it in, having it shoved up your rear in the form of an enema, or whatever else. This hinges on the false idea that autism is actually just some viruses or parasites or other foolish, unscientific conjecture. The solution that was arrived upon was the foolish idea that our bodies should be disinfected the way that hospital floors are.
They try to convince you that they have nothing to gain from this so-called truth that they spread, but that's not true. They gain a cult following, get to be well known, and make lots of money off of the sales of their books, products, and other goods and services. The truth is, nearly everyone can get something out of nearly everything. If you can understand now that even Humble and Rivera have motive to convince you of their methods, please, you must look at the facts. The facts tell us that chlorine dioxide was never made for consumption, is dangerous, has harmful side effects, and has absolutely nothing to do with autism. The facts tell us that children are being sent to the hospital and enduring what could practically constitute as torture for the elusive promise that they might be cured from being autistic. The facts tell us that CD is more likely to cause harm in the body than it could possibly help. I hope this video has been helpful in showing you this situation and the truth around MMS and CD and why it is not acceptable to try this method on your autistic child. And not only does it not work, has absolutely nothing to do with autism, is based on completely misguided claims that make zero scientific sense. This will actively harm and hurt your child. Please don't do this. Even if you don't necessarily like your child being autistic and you feel that they are highly disadvantaged or disabled from it, going to methods like these will only make things worse. Putting your child through pain doesn't make them better, and it doesn't make you better, that's for sure. Anyway, I hope that this helped shed a light on this situation. If you enjoyed this video or found it informative, go ahead and hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you're interested in autism-related content from me, I do upload to this channel every Thursday at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, so be sure to hit that subscribe button.
Thank you to my patrons for supporting me over on Patreon. And a special thank you to my Spaz tier patrons, Brian Kleinhammer and Jesse Graves.
Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful week, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!